The following is a letter that Johannes Junius, the mayor of Bamberg, wrote to his daughter while he was imprisoned during the infamous Bamberg witch trials of the 1620s. Accused of witchcraft amid the mass hysteria of the period, he endured brutal torture designed to force a confession. Just days before his public execution by burning at the stake, he managed to secretly send a heartbreaking letter to his daughter with the help of his jailer. In it, he recounted the horrors he had endured, describing his ordeal as follows.
Many hundreds of thousands of good nights, dearly beloved daughter Veronica. I have come to prison innocent, I have been tortured innocent, and innocent I must die. For whoever enters the witch prison must become a witch, or be tortured until he invents something, God pity him, until he conjures up some confession. I will tell you what has happened to me. When I was first put to the torture, Dr. Braun, Dr. Kotzendorfer, and two unfamiliar doctors were present. Dr. Braun asked me, "Kinsman, how did you come here?" I answered, "Through falsehood, through misfortune." He said, "Listen here, you are a witch. Will you confess it willingly? If not, we will bring in witnesses and the executioner for you." I said, "I am no witch. I have a clear conscience in this matter. Even if there are 1,000 witnesses, I am not worried, but I will gladly hear them." First they called upon the Chancellor's son, and afterward Hopfenels, a day labourer who was herself accused of witchcraft. She claimed to have seen me participating in a supposed witches' gathering. She claimed to have seen me dancing on Hauptsmoor Forest. I asked her how she had seen me. She answered that she did not know. I appealed to the court for God's sake. They acknowledged that these were all unreliable witnesses and should be sworn under oath and properly questioned, but this was not done. Instead, they told me I should confess voluntarily, or the executioner would force me to do so. I replied, "I have never renounced God, and I never will. God graciously keep me from it. I'll rather bear whatever I must." Then the executioner was brought forth, and the thumbscrews were applied. My hands were bound so tightly that blood oozed from beneath my nails, staining everything. The agony was such that for 4 weeks I could not use my hands at all. So I placed myself in the care of God in his 5 sacred wounds and said, "Because this concerns God's honour and name, which I have never denied, therefore I will commend my innocence and all the tortures and harm, and he will lessen my pain so that I can endure it." Next, they stripped me, tied my hands behind my back, and hoisted me up in the torture. At that moment, I felt as though the world was ending. 8 times they hoisted me up and then let me fall, each time plunging me into unimaginable agony. And all this happened while I was utterly naked, as they had stripped me completely. And this ordeal occurred on Friday, the 30th of June. I had to endure all the tortures with only God's help. For the entire period afterward, I was unable to dress myself or use my hands without suffering further pain. When the executioner took me back to jail, he said to me, "Sir, I beg you for God's sake, confess something, whether it be true or not. Invent something, for you cannot bear the torture which you shall suffer, and even if you bear it all, you still shall not escape, not even if you were a count. But one torture will follow another until you say you are a witch. Not before that will they let you go, as you may see by their trials, for one is just like another, and they have already condemned you in their minds." Then Georg came to me and said that my lord, Bishop Johann II, intended to make such an example of me that people would be astonished. The executioners had been saying this all along and were preparing to torture me again. Georg begged me for God's sake to think of something, because even if I were entirely innocent, I would never go free. Kandelgisser, Neudecker, and others told me the same. And so, being in a wretched plight, I begged for a day to think and for a priest. They refused me a priest, but granted me the time to think. Now, dearest daughter, can you imagine the danger I was in, and still am? They wanted me to confess to being a witch, though I am not. They wanted me to renounce God for the first time, though I have never done so before. I tormented myself day and night with worry, until at last I devised a plan. Since I had been denied a priest who could advise me on whether I should invent something to say, I reasoned that it would be better to say it only with my mouth and words, though I had never truly done it. Then, later, I could confess the lie to a priest and leave those who forced me to do it to answer for their deeds. And so, the statement that follows is entirely fabricated. I claimed that I was walking in a sad state near the Friedrichsbrunnen when a wild girl approached me, asking why I was so sorrowful. When I said I didn't know, she came closer and turned into a billy goat. The creature then grabbed me by the throat and threatened that I must belong to her or she would kill me. I begged for God's mercy, and she disappeared, only to return quickly with 2 women and 3 men. I was forced to renounce God and all the heavenly host. They then baptized me, with the 2 women acting as godmothers, and presented me with a ducat, which I later discovered was counterfeit. Thinking I had finally finished my confession, they sent the executioner back to me and demanded to know where I had gone to dance. By then, I was so disoriented, I no longer knew which way was up. I remembered that the Chancellor, his son, and Hopfenselse had previously named the Old Court, the Council Chambers, and the Hauptsmoor, along with other locations I had heard read out in similar cases. So I named those same places as well. Then they demanded that I say what sort of people I had seen there. I replied that I had not recognized anyone. They threatened to set the executioner on me once again unless I gave them names. They demanded to know if the Chancellor was present. Under pressure, I was forced to lie and say he was. Then they pressed me to name others, making me list people from various streets, including Lange Gasse, Zinkenwert, the Upper Bridge, and the George Gate, despite not knowing anyone. When I refused to name anyone from the castle and the marketplace, they handed me over to the executioner, who stripped me, cut off my hair, and put me on the rack. Accusing me of protecting someone from the marketplace, they named Dietmeier, forcing me to confirm it. After that, they demanded to know what evil deeds I had committed. I remained silent. The Inquisitor expected a confession, and when I refused, he struck me and ordered me to be hoisted up. Though I was innocent, the unbearable pain forced me to lie. The torturers would not stop until I admitted to something, any falsehood, no matter how absurd. Desperate, I falsely claimed that I had been ordered to kill my children, but had killed a horse instead. Even that did not satisfy them. I then said that I had taken a sacred wafer and desecrated it. Only after this final lie did they finally leave me in peace. Now, my dearest daughter, here you have my entire confession for which I must die, and they are all sheer lies and fabrications, so help me God. I was forced to say all this through fear of the torture that was threatened, which would have been worse than what I had already endured, for they never stop the torture until one confesses something. No matter how innocent he may be, he must be a witch. Nobody escapes, even if he were an earl. Dear child, give this man a coin. It has taken me days to write these words, for my hands are crippled and my strength is nearly gone. Keep this letter secret so that it is not discovered. Otherwise, I will be most pitifully tortured, and the jailers will be beheaded. It is so strictly forbidden. I am in a wretched state. Good night, my beloved, for your father will never see you again.